This is 20th Level Commoners for the Dragon Age RPG. Welcome everybody to another edition of 20th Level Commoners. By the way, this is going to be coming out on Tuesday of Christmas week, so Merry Christmas.
And a Happy New Year.
May all your dice land on 20s, or 12s, or 10s, or 8s, or whatever their maximum value is.
Whichever one you like.
Yeah. Unless D4s. If you want all your D4s to roll on 4s, why?
Unless you're doing Thaco, then may you always roll ones or whatever the fuck that's supposed to be.
Yeah. Or Critmas.
Yeah,
As some might say.
Critmas. Oh, yeah.
Critmas is-
That's a good one.
Merry Christmas, and may
Yeah.
all your adventures be fortunate.
Indeed.
But hey, who cares about Christmas? Because we're talking about the Dragon Age RPG.
Yeah.
So, Dragon Age is it's a series you may have heard of, from a developer you may have heard of, BioWare. They made titles you may have heard of, like Knights of the Old Republic, and
Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights,
Jade Empire, and
Mass Effect.
yes. Not the sequels to a lot of those games. That was done by another company you may have heard of,
Yeah.
Obsidian.
Yeah.
I will plug those. I will plug them.
I wish to, this is a bit of a non-square, but I wish to God that Obsidian made the Mass Effect sequels. That'd be so cool.
Right? And it would have been in theme.
Yeah.
It would have. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Hey, we're not talking about those. We're talking about Dragon Age. Dragon Age!
Dragon Age.
Cody. What the hell is Dragon Age?
Dragon Age is one of my favorite role-playing games on a video game, and damn near one of my favorites as a tabletop, too.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age, the video game, was made basically because BioWare lost the rights to Dungeons & Dragons. So they made their own Dungeons & Dragons world. It's a bit like Mystara
With blackjack
and Hookers.
and hookers.
Yeah, this
Hookers.
is... a lot of people say it's dark and gritty, and that's not inaccurate, but it's mostly... It takes these kind of D&D tropes and adds a lot of realpolitik and like real world sociology into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of have a lot of real world prejudice when dealing with elves and stuff like that. A lot of wars, a lot of religion, and the big theme in Dragon Age is that people and even systems and societies are really complex and you can't pin it down to one thing. And, Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's it. That's the accuracy.
In a nutshell.
This game has some other differences, like in a lore way. I think you brought up many times that elves and dwarves actually don't live longer than humans.
They don't live much longer.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of interesting that the elves 1,000 years ago were these immortal beings, very much like D&D elves, very much like Lord of the Rings elves. But by being in contact with humans, they caught mortality like a disease. And ever since then, they've been kind of like subjugated and persecuted. They're either on the run or they're living in ghettos. They're very similar analog to gypsies and Jews and the Dark Ages.
Mm-hmm. What are dwarves? Who are they? The sociological equivalent of?
Ooh, that's actually kind of a tough one because they're separate, but there's not really any prejudice against them. The closest thing they have to prejudice is that everybody assumes they're a blacksmith.
Mm-hmm. Of course, they hang around and like fight the Darkspawn when no one else will. So
yeah, they're if anything, they're kind of like Eastern Europe. They're kind of like the Ottoman Empire. They're just sort of
a little bit of a caste system that you might find
have
in
a very harsh caste system. Very
a
much
little bit like
India.
India was what I was going to say. Because when I was playing Dragon Age a couple months ago, I played Dragon Age for the first time. This was actually a year ago, wasn't it? It's been a while. But I picked a dwarf first, and I picked...
Did you pick noble or casteless?
I picked casteless.
Ooh, cool.
And I was a rogue, and it was really interesting that how hard that casteless thing was enforced.
Yeah, because
very...
they have on top the nobles, and then the warriors, and then the workers, and below that are these people who don't even have a caste. They're just dirt. The only reason they don't kill them all is that they need them for menial labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it was very interesting. It was very different from what
Yeah.
It didn't feel like something a Dwarven Society wouldn't do, though.
Yeah, and that's another really interesting thing. Like, these don't break the D&D trope. They just kind of bend it in a really interesting way. The other analogous one, which isn't in the book that we have, but it's in the second book, are the Kunari, which are these large men with, sometimes they have ox horns, sometimes they don't. And they're probably the closest to hobgoblins, sort of, but they have a lot more purpose. If they have a historical equivalent, it's probably the Arab nations, like at the time of the Crusades. They're very much the Crusader or the anti-Crusaders. And again, they're also really complicated and deep. When you actually meet one and talk to one, Sten in the video game, he's almost impossible to pin down as a character, but not in a lazy way, in a really interesting, intentional way. But those are pretty much the four races, other than the Dark Spawn.
Who are like orcs, but eviler.
Yeah. They're orcs, but they are pure evil. Except in the expansion pack, because again, everything is complicated here.
There was the first Darkspawn.
Yeah.
Who doesn't he show up in Inquisition?
Yes, he is the bad guy in Inquisition.
Yeah.
He's
Spoilers.
first showed up, again, spoilers, in DLC in Dragon Age 2. Hawk kills him, but he's the first Darkspawn. He's just going to come back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait, Inquisition isn't a prequel?
No, Inquisition is a sequel.
Oh. Oh, yeah, because Hawk's
It's
in it.
10 years after Dragon Age 2.
Right. All right.
Which
Well, yeah.
I think makes it 20 years after the events of Dragon Age Origins.
Of course, in Dragon Age Origins, didn't have any characters that stuck around. Your guy was just some nameless guy.
Yeah. Even if you are the son of a king, which you are in 2 different origins. Well, you're son of, like, the guy right below the king.
You're just some guy.
Yeah.
Or girl.
Or girl.
We're not racist.
Yeah.
Sexist, I mean. Not like those elves who want to keep their immortality they don't have.
Yeah.
Anyway, so...
Very knife ears.
Yeah, so there's a kind of a quick rundown of Dragon Age. It's like D&D, but a little more politicized.
Yeah.
A little bit like The Witcher. I think The Witcher takes some different routes as well, but
It pains me to say it, but I think The Witcher does it better.
yeah,
Although that's an argument for another time.
that is. Maybe for The Witcher tabletop RPG.
They have one.
I don't know.
They fucking ought to.
I don't think so, but
I don't think so either. I think.
well,
it would've
especially
hurt
since
this.
like they're doing Cyberpunk 2020,
Yeah.
like which to this day we have still only seen like one screenshot,
Yeah.
one pre-rendered screenshot.
I mean, if anything, The Witcher is even more D&D based because they have halflings.
But anyway, getting back on
Yeah.
track.
Sorry.
The Dragon Age RPG is, if you want something that it's like basic D&D actually, but it's got some elements of games like Iron Kingdoms. So it's like basic D&D in that it is very simple. It doesn't use, well, it says it doesn't use gridless combat, or it uses gridless combat, but
I think it's better with a grid. Of course, I think everything is better with a grid.
yeah, when we rolled up, our stats didn't really seem to matter that much.
Yeah, everyone in the version we played, we just rolled 3d6.
In order.
In order.
And it wasn't that bad.
No, in a game like Pathfinder, you pretty much can't do that. It is severely punished, because if you get a 9, you're bad at something. And in this one, though, if you get a 9, I think that's still a +1, right?
It's +1.
Yeah, even if you get a 3, the lowest possible score, you just have a -2. It's not that bad.
And that can get and that's canceled out by your skills, which is a +2. But anyway, it's very simple, very much focused on like the spectacle of everything.
Yeah.
And like Iron Kingdoms, it uses 3d6 for all of your checks, unless it's damage, which usually uses like 1 or 2. And so going into some of the mechanics here, the big thing about this game is the dragon dice.
Yes.
So you have 2d6 that are the same color, and then you have 1d6 that is an off color. And anytime you roll doubles, the number on this dragon dice represents a certain number of points you get every time you roll doubles with any of the d6s. And these numbers and these points can be spent on these little tricks you can do in combat and social situations. Like, say if you roll double 4s and the dragon dice comes up as like 4. You can look up on an attack. You can do kind of these what are called stunts, and you could move someone. You could like knock them back. You can instantly reload a crossbow. You can do an extra d6 of damage. You can strike again and do like a cleave. And so these are all stuff anyone who is making like an attack can do.
My favorite is skirmish, where you just move somebody a square each time. So if you have 6 dragon dice, you're moving someone 6 squares. And so you can just instant kill a guy like that if you're on like a rickety bridge or something.
Yeah, and so like if you say on the example we're using, you had 6 points on the dragon dice. So that means you have 6 points. Well, there's nothing here that costs 6 points. The highest is 4.
Yes.
So if you want to do dual strike, which is a second attack, that costs 4 points, but then you can add another d6 to both attacks for another 2. And so that way you can spend those points. And spells have their own stunts as well. And I think you said social situations had...
Yes, that is in the later book, which I have lost, and I'm really upset about that. It has a lot of cool stuff in it.
Yeah, and so initially this game came out in a set of 3 books. But now you can get the whole thing in 1 book.
Yeah, the first book is for levels 1 through 5. The second book is 6 to 10. I think the third book is 11 to 20. Yeah.
So you can get all those books separately, or you can just buy the whole book. You should probably just buy the whole book.
You really should. It's kind of annoying.
It's infinitely cheaper, and it's less annoying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and so like Cody said, the way you determine your stats, the way the game wants you to determine your stats, is you roll 3d6 in order, and you consult a chart, and depending on the number you roll, that's the bonus you get. You don't actually have an attribute score in this game. Like if you roll 16, you don't have a 16 strength, you have a +3 strength. And so that number you roll is actually discarded.
Yes.
And you roll in order, and at the end of all of your rolling, you can take 2 of your stats and switch them. And that's how you generate a character.
That seems restrictive, but again, like we said, the stats don't really matter that much.
No, and we'll get into that later in the character creation. So initially, yeah, like Cody said, like the stats don't matter that much. Initially, you'll end up probably with pretty low stats. Like I think someone said the average was like 8 points.
Yeah.
I ended up with 4. I think Kais ended up with 8, and then Trevor ended up with like 12.
Yeah, Trevor got some damn good rolls.
Yeah, Trevor rolled high. He was good. But even then, like the difference between Trevor's character and my character, not that much.
And this
Trevor hit a little more often.
Yeah. This is mitigated a lot though throughout the game. Would it be too early to talk about the skills?
No, let's do about that.
Okay. Well, the skills for any different thing, it's whether it's weapons, whether it's persuasion. There are many different flavors of persuasion on this, which I really like. I'm on the wrong book, aren't I? Yeah.
Yeah. Switch books. Right.
Yeah. So, a lot of skills are like brawling, and if you take focus in brawling, you have +2. So your strength is a bit mitigated. If you have a low strength, but you have a focus in brawling, you still get a +2. If you have a 0. And you get a focus, I think, every other level.
Yeah, I think so.
Also, every other level you get, every level actually, you get to raise an attribute score.
Oh, really?
Yes. You raise it by 1. The only catch is you cannot raise the same score every time. You have to switch between your primary stats and your secondary stats.
Okay. But yeah, and so the stats in this game are communication, constitution, cunning, dexterity, magic, perception, strength, and willpower. And they all kind of do what you think they do. Cunning is essentially intelligence.
Yeah.
But these all kind of work together. Very, very basic, very broad attributes. And your skills are called focuses, and these are the areas within these attributes that you're focusing on. And so like my guy got a 1 in communication and got a focus in deception. And so he has essentially a +3 whenever he is using anything that could be considered deception.
Although I would like to point out that Trevor, the big fighter, got a 2 in communication. And I think that's the stat he switched.
No, the stat he switched was he got a 4 in magic and like a 0 in strength, and he switched those.
Okay, that makes sense.
Trevor was the fighter.
Yeah. Dwarf fighter, by the way. What was it then? Oh.
Was it cunning? It was cunning. Yeah.
Okay.
He got a 4 in cunning. But anyway. But yeah, so like, and all 3 of the classes, there's 3. Blowing your mind with choices here. At most they use like 2.
Yeah.
The mage uses magic and like willpower.
Yeah, it's actually even more basic than basic D&D because there aren't clerics.
Yeah. The rogue uses cunning and dexterity. The fighter uses constitution and strength.
Yeah.
Like,
you can figure this out.
Yeah, like odds are you're not going to get like a substandard character.
I explained almost none of this to Vincent. Of course, he's played a lot of different systems, but he just pretty much figured it out. Just, roll 3d6, boom, boom, boom. Pick a guy, pick a background.
Yeah, and that's another thing that helps mitigate the stats is your backgrounds.
Yes, backgrounds are really interesting, and they also kind of get you into the role-playing spirit a lot.
And so your backgrounds are essentially your race and where your race comes from. So like my background was a city elf, and you pick this after you roll your stats. So as opposed to Pathfinder, where it's just like, all right, I'm going to be a ranger. Okay, who's best at being a ranger? That'd be an elf. All right, now I roll my stats.
Yeah, you can be a background, and like if you say the city elf, you can be a rogue or a fighter. Like most of their stats are a little bit more roguey, but if you make a roguey fighter, you're not really at a disadvantage. You be a really good roguey fighter.
And another like point I love to give games like this is your skills are not restricted to your class.
Yes.
I always will like give a system like bonus points for doing that because I hate it when Pathfinder does that. But yeah,
you can be a mage who picks locks. It actually makes a lot of sense if you're an apostate.
Yeah, and so your background actually does kind of determine what role you can pick. Like mages in this game are in the world of Dragon Age. Mages are very tightly controlled.
Yeah, there are mages who live in the Circle of Magi, which is a building that every country has, where pretty much mages are quarantined. They're watched over by these Templars, who are kind of like paladins, if paladins were real people. And evil isn't like some force of the universe, it's just in your own mind. So you get kind of this very normal ratio of heroes, villains, and just guys doing their job. And so they watch over the mages, and because these guys are oppressed mostly because mages are really, really scary and dangerous. Not only can they summon meteors and electrical storms and raise the dead, if they make a wrong move, if they have a bad dream and panic, if they have one moment of weakness, a demon can and will take over their body and wreak horrible havoc.
It's like being a Jedi, except a Tarrasque can possess you at any time.
Yeah. And some of these demons are Tarrasque level extinction events. Like, there are just nation destroyers among them.
Yeah. So, you have to be a special kind of person to be a mage. And so there's only like 2 or 3 backgrounds that let you even pick mage. Two. Apostate and
Circle Mage.
Yeah, and Circle Mage.
Circle Mages are the mandated, officially allowed to not be murdered mage. And then you have to figure out a reason why you're allowed outside the circle in the first place. they have to have a very good reason. Whereas apostates, if they do magic in public, people will try to kill them.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things, like, they kind of have a reason to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so mages, it's a very tight control on, and it does kind of, and it will influence your role-playing, I think.
Yeah, and, on the other side, like, mages are, for the most part, just people, too. And they really are oppressed and given a bad deal. And so there's this really big side to it with a lot of really interesting perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also a really fun thing to do. Like, one of our guys was a mage.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy was a fighter. Trevor was a fighter. And so Trevor just said he was the Templar following around the mage.
Makes sense. And so you can do that.
Yeah. But, yeah, and so this game... And so your other backgrounds, like the one I got was City Elf. And when you pick a background, you roll 2d6 twice. And there's this table of benefits you get. And you just pick 2 of those benefits. So, like, I got skill focused deception and like a +1 to dexterity for free.
Mm-hmm.
And so those kind of very much raised my stats quite a bit. And then you get a list of other things you can get. Like, I could either be really take a focus in stealth or perception. And so I took a focus in stealth. And it's really stuff that lets you kind of specialize your character to a point that he can still do a lot of good.
Yeah.
And then after that, you pick your class. If you are not one of the magic mandated backgrounds, you can't be a mage.
Yeah.
But you can be a fighter or rogue. And, fighters fight things, rogues stab things in the back.
And even then, there's a lot of overlap between a fighter and a rogue, like we said. The skills aren't really limited to one class. It's just that rogues get more of them.
Mm-hmm. And the rogue got a lot of skills that let him, like, re-roll stuff. Like, I got something that let me re-roll stealth checks.
Mm-hmm.
And, Trevor got, like, I hit things harder. And I can take more damage because I have better armor. And he got cleave.
Yeah, that's something that technically anyone can get, but he just got the hell out of that thing.
Mm. But it's very simple, very basic. You'll be done with character creation in like 20 minutes.
And that's
unless you're Kais.
Pretty one. Yeah, unless you're Kais.
Anyway.
Even Trevor got it fast, and Trevor's the slow one with character creation.
Yeah, I was hanging out with him, and like it took him 3 hours, but we were just like talking for 2 hours and 45 minutes of it. So.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, and so defense works a little weird in this game to where you have a defense rating and you have an armor rating.
Mm-hmm.
So your defense rating is like your dodge chance. It's basically your touch AC, if they were an equivalent. So someone rolls 3d6, they add their modifiers, so they get over your defense, they hit you. But when they hit you, you subtract your armor rating. And so armor is DR in this game.
Yeah. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's few systems where this exists. I prefer it just on principle. It just seems a lot more natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well unless you're a Monty Cook DM like I am and just give people things. And then in the first campaign I ever ran, by the way, full disclosure, was Dragon Age. And I ran it with Trevor and Kais and Reinhold, who isn't with us anymore. He's not dead. He's in Japan.
No, he's not dead. Don't worry.
He's in Japan.
Yeah. I was not around at this time.
Yeah. And so Trevor played the fighter again. His thing is when he starts out, he likes to make tanky characters. And for some reason, I was really arrogant and thought, well, I played the Dragon Age games. I know how this works. I know how this ought to work. I'm going to tweak the system how I want to play it. So I added like stats to all the weapons, like did a lot of armor piercing stuff. But the worst thing I did was I added in runes. In the video game, runes are things you attach to your weapons and armor, kind of like materia in Final Fantasy VII.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept giving Trevor these runes of protection, which add armor to you. So it got to a point where I couldn't hurt Trevor.
Yeah.
Like, I would devise things very unfairly just to kill Trevor, and nothing ever worked. Like, the closest I got were he got ambushed by these Templars that had these lightning-infused javelins that would pierce armor. Then the next level, he got to where he doesn't take... his armor just isn't pierced.
Yeah.
And so he was suplexing people inside of burning buildings and strangling them while he was on fire.
There was that one time you threw an ogre designed specifically
Yes.
to kill him.
By the way, ogres are like boss level monsters in this game. They're 20 feet tall. They're super strong. One of the first ones you see in the video game, he just lifts up this king who's in like this awesome impenetrable golden armor and like just squishes him in one hand. It's really gross and horrible. So I had an ogre, not just any ogre. I souped this son of a bitch up. I put him in plate mail. I gave him extra strength just because screw you, Trevor. And yeah, and he uprooted an oak tree and just swung at Trevor with a baseball bat with it. He was alive. So then he grabbed him, so he would do just like the King Dragon Age 1, he just started squeezing him. And Trevor starts taking out his grenades, because of course, like a jackass, I've given these people like 30 grenades each, and he just starts slamming the grenades on this ogre's hand, because it was still hurting the ogre slightly more than it was hurting him, because this guy's armor's so stupid. Finally, I just give up, and the ogre just throws Trevor into a hole, and the weight of the armor makes it so hard for him to get up, he can't get out of the hole until the end of the battle. And that's how I beat him in the most bullshit Weasley way possible. And the ogre was almost dead. He got finished off, like, almost immediately. But the second campaign, now that I know how to DM, now that I know how to tweak the rules and not break them, I think we had a pretty good one.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
We tried gridless combat. It didn't go over so well.
Yeah, I just missed the grids.
Yeah. But if gridless combat is what you do, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it works. I think anyone was particularly confused.
I wasn't.
It just needs... We just like knowing where things are.
You really need to, like, if you're going to do gridless combat, just a tip in general, make sure everyone knows where everyone else is.
Yeah.
And you don't, like, have it to where, like, I'm out here checking the surroundings. I go into this building. You get attacked by crows in the building. Okay, the guy who was checking surroundings gets attacked by a crow. But I'm, like, on a hill 40 feet away. It's like, but...
Crow flies through a window.
And flies 40 feet towards you and charges you. Fuck you.
You're getting hit by crows. They're fast. They fly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just stuff like that. And you gotta make sure everyone knows where everyone else is. Yeah, honestly, that's... Aside from the obvious similarities to basic D&D and the Dragon Dice, that's actually it to combat.
And that's kind of good.
Yeah, and the spells...
Oh, yeah, the spells. This is really interesting. Well, it's not interesting book we played. The book afterwards, the later spells. Okay, so you mentioned how mages are kind of dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a spell failure chance with every spell you cast. Kai said he didn't mind. I think if I was playing a mage, it would drive me insane. And it would be really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But with the low level spells, if you fail, the spell fizzles out, nothing happens. The higher level spells, if you fail, you roll a table. Bad stuff happens if you roll on the table. It will backfire on you. It will hit a friend. Or worst of all, you'll faint. And if you faint, you go into the Fade, which is the land of dreams. And mages have this special affinity with the land of dreams. They all are lucid dreamers. They all walk around. They can change the dream as they will. The problem is that the denizens of the Fade will notice them, and they will want to take over their souls and use their bodies. So there's a chance that something really nasty is going to find them. And so there's a chance. If you try to cast Walking Bomb 2, that you will pass out and a pride demon will take over your body and kill the entire party. A small chance.
Very small chance. Kind of like, actually, that's very similar
Pride
to...
demons are not chumps.
Stop it, Trevor. Very similar to 40K. The way that works. You know, where there's a slight chance you'll make a black hole and kill everyone.
Also, can I make a slight non-square rant? Pride demons in Dragon Age Origins and in Dragon Age 2 are like end boss ultimate badasses. They are like, they're pit fiends. Mm-hmm. They're pit fiends, but they're really manipulative and smart. Dragon Age Inquisition, it's the first goddamn boss you fight, and it's not even that hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, I said my piece.
He's the chump. He's the pit fiend that got polymorphed.
He's the stupid pride demon.
Yeah. He's the pride demon everyone else makes fun of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It's basic D&D, except it has this interesting spectacle fightery mechanic in the dragon die, and you roll 3d6 instead of d20, so it's a more focused range of stuff you can roll.
And also, if you don't want to do the lore for whatever reason, they have a loreless version, just the age system.
Fantasy Age.
Fantasy Age?
Yeah.
I would definitely give that one a shot, too.
Yeah. I probably would. It just came out recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the system in a nutshell. It's very basic, very spectacular, in like a spectacle fightery way.
Yeah.
Very much focused on people like describing what they're doing, and not so much focused on like, I have this feat so I can do this. I have this spell so I can do this. It is, I jump, like do a wall rebound off a table with a short sword and a backhandle grip, and I fly down on a guy and stab him in the chest and ride him like a donkey.
Oh.
That's
combat is vague in all the right ways. It's about owning it, and I think that that the stunts really help you own it.
Yeah, like I think it's kind of the reason that D&D Basic is still a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Just because it doesn't have all these rules kind of weighing it down.
But this one in particular, I think it's really built for newbies. Mm-hmm. Like the stunt system, someone doesn't know what to do in combat. Like, oh, you rolled doubles. That means you get these cool options. Which one do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And the background is like, oh, okay, well, here's my background. It's pretty much shapes half of my motivation. Mm-hmm. This is where I come from. This is what I want. Mm-hmm. And this is who I'm supposed to hate. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing to say about it. Is like, it's very good for newer players.
Yeah.
That being said, I think you were to say like it can get dry pretty quickly.
Yeah, for advanced players, you're gonna want a little more meat.
Mm-hmm, probably, unless like you just came off playing like an Exalted or an Anima campaign and you just don't want to think very hard.
Yeah, gosh, I will probably get to Anima or Exalted eventually, but I'm
like
not looking forward to it.
A few months. I gave myself a few months to figure those systems out. Yeah, I mean, this game, I found it really refreshing because like I hadn't played a whole lot of basic D&D. I just kind of knew how it worked. Mm-hmm. And after playing Pathfinder for so long and getting kind of frustrated with all the technical details about it, playing this game, which was just simple, like it was just like, I want to do this. I don't need feats for it, so I'm just going to do it. And it was just really refreshing to do that. Yeah,
this is it's almost like a little bit of ginger you get. It just cleanses your palate really well.
Mm-hmm. But I guess really this game will probably get replaced by Pathfinder. It will not replace it.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much how my DMing career worked.
Yeah.
I started out with this, and then I wanted to do more stuff, so I started doing Pathfinder.
It does more stuff.
Yeah.
But you can totally play a whole campaign with this.
Yeah.
Very easily. And
hell yeah.
If you have a certain group of players, it might be preferable to Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like a group of players who want to like role play very heavily and do all their other stuff and not be restricted by all the rules and like have to have improved trip to trip someone. You know, it's just it's just like, I want to do it like this. I think there's very definitely a certain, probably old school group of players who would appreciate the Dragon Age RPG.
Yeah, and that's pretty much, segue, what people say on the forums.
Hey!
Yeah, we have a game that people actually talk about on the forums now.
Right.
We're moving a little bit out of the indie sphere here. So, this game is very much universally liked.
Mm-hmm.
What most people say is that it has kind of the charm and the simplicity of basic and AD&D without all the extraneous bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
The lore is really good. It's great for new players. The only complaint I've heard of is this one blogger I like to read, The Angry DM, and even he liked it. He just said, like we were saying, it might not be technical enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you like involved tactical combat,
Look elsewhere, young child.
yeah, this is not the Disgaea tabletop RPG.
No. This is there's not a lot of numbers to manipulate here.
Yeah.
And even the numbers, you can't really manipulate them because you're rolling anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty simple. This makes World of Darkness look like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Mm-hmm. But, that's not a bad thing.
No, it's really not. Like, combat, instead of being tactical, it's flashy. It's fun. It's just random enough to be interesting. It's like, it's the difference between Dark Souls and Devil May Cry. Or really, more like God of War. Because Dark Souls, it's more technical, but you can do a lot more stuff. And God of War, it's just a blast to stab things.
It's like, stabby, 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 stabby.
Okay, I'm gonna get up on him, and I'm gonna tear his eyeball out, and then I'm gonna beat him to death with a stock.
Yeah! Dark Souls. No, you can technically do that. Just have to do this, and this, and this, and this. I just want to go back to God of War.
Yeah, Dark Souls, it's great once you figure out the algorithm to be able to roll in plate mail.
Yeah. Do backflips in pigmail even.
Yeah.
Backflips in Havel armor while
you can
shooting.
do it, but you gotta think about it, and you gotta plan, and you gotta be really smart.
Yeah. Or just look it up online.
Or look it up online.
If you want to be uncool.
If you want to be me, honestly, I look it up online. I'm not ashamed to say that.
I don't know. I usually beat a Souls game first, and then I go to the wiki and find out all the shit I missed.
Yeah.
Bloodborne, that was great. Found out I missed an entire area.
Kaner's Castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this was here?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Look at all these awesome items that would have totally fit my character.
So,
sure
you
wish I
beat
could
the
get
game,
these.
And then you look back and you find out they have all of Castlevania hidden over here.
Yeah. Didn't even have to go to it. Nah, whatever.
Yeah.
I even got the best ending, too. I skipped Castlevania's, got the best ending with the umbilical cords. It was like
the best ending where you turn into a slug.
Yeah. Quote unquote best ending. You could make an argument the ending that's the easiest to get could be the best in some ways.
It's the best for your character, yeah.
I don't know. Being an elder god's not that bad.
Oh, spoiler alert, by the way.
What? Oh, yeah. You turn into a giant slug if you eat 3 umbilical cords in Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Also, Kaner's Castle exists.
Yeah.
It's a bitch to find. But yeah,
God, we should have had in a beep, beep, spoiler alert beep here.
Beep, 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 beep.
Because that just came from fucking nowhere.
I don't know. Whatever.
It's like, yeah, so Dragon Age is good. Did you know that, Darth Vader is Luke's father?
What? That's crazier than the time Snape killed Dumbledore.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Did you know that Ocelot is... Actually, I still don't know what Ocelot is. Holy shit.
Ocelot is something.
Ocelot is a cat in South America.
A lot of things. Anyway, so, honestly, personal builds. I was a rogue. I stabbed things.
Yeah.
Backstab isn't like sneak attack in Pathfinder. I actually had to I couldn't do a backstab if I was adjacent to someone, so I had to like yo-yo back and sneak up on them.
Which is really cool because you're playing a skirmisher. You skirmish and you pinball around dudes.
Yeah, it's great.
Which is really easy when there's not a map and you're just abstracting it all.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, basically how you get backstabbed in this game is you make a stealth check, which I could re-roll stealth checks, so that was good.
Yeah.
And I was adding 4 to them against a person's perception seeing, which is a skill, apparently. Seeing is a skill.
Yeah.
And then if I beat them, I could do a sneak attack, which let me do another d6 damage, which put me right next to Trevor's normal damage output because he was using a battle axe.
Yeah.
But hey.
And he was getting dragon dice rolls all the time.
My God, there was one time he was just spitting in a circle and everything was dead.
Yeah. In the last campaign, it was kind of the opposite. Whereas Trevor was lucky to get dragon dice once a session, whereas Reinhold, the rogue, was getting every other goddamn roll.
I didn't get a dragon dice like a single time the entire session.
Yeah.
Actually, I got it a lot on the social stuff, and so if we had the book that let me do the social stunts,
Yeah.
I would have been like rocking it. But
Yeah, I was really, really mad I lost that book. I really like that book.
like it
I like it so much.
Ugh.
Oh.
But anyway, that was my build. Kais was a mage. He did like freezing grasp on people.
Yeah, he did Freezing Grasp, and Freezing Grasp was pretty insidious, because it's just continuous damage unless you make a Constitution check.
And he was getting dragon dice, and he was like upping his DCs constantly. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kais and Trevor got dragon dice all the time, and I didn't get any.
Yeah, and
It was not
Trevor
bitter
was
about that at all.
just a really good tank with a really big axe. And he... What?
Yeah. But yeah.
And what he would do, he would actually do this double attack. So I kept saying he was doing this like spinning axe pirouette, because I've been playing a lot of Disgaea, and that's what orcs do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so that's our created character.
Yeah.
They do stuff at later levels.
Yeah, and they do a lot of cool stuff. The talents, you get some neat skills. Like, you can make brawling okay, like, even for a mage. Like, you turn it from 1d3 to 1d6, and you get better and better at it. So I was thinking, if I ever was a player in this, I would make a boxing wizard, like I do in Oblivion. And I would just, like, buff myself and punch people. It would be a so not optimal build, but Dragon Age is the kind of game where you can kind of let it slide.
You can get away with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if you're interested in this game, the full RPG is available at DriveThruRPG, like everything else.
And you should totally get it.
It's about $30. If you want a physical copy, it's about $60.
Yeah.
And that's for all 3 sets. So, excuse me, I'm getting invaded. But yeah, yeah. That's about it, guys. It's a super simple, super fun RPG.
Yeah,
It doesn't cost too much.
if anything we said is piquing your interest, I would definitely give it a shot. This is what it does. I have not seen an RPG do it better. Except for maybe basic D&D. It's that good.
So, it's as good as the thing that started role-playing.
Yeah. Roughly. On
Yeah.
the same level.
There you go. Well, I guess Chainmail started it technically, didn't it?
Yeah, and there was original D&D, which isn't quite basic D&D. It's even more basic and kind of stupid.
But yeah. All right, that's the Dragon Age RPG.
Sweet.
It's a bit of a lighter episode, but
Yeah,
this...
didn't you have an idea of what we're going to do next?
Yeah, I finally sat down and wrote down a schedule. So we're not like, what should we play next, Cody? I don't know.
What you want to do.
Let's just talk about it for 5 minutes. No. So this is the first campaign Cody ran. So I think next week it would be fair to do the first campaign with the first system I ran. And it's a system known as Blue Rose. And it rolls entirely with a single D20.
And you can play as a dolphin.
I don't recommend that.
No, it's a terrible idea.
I'll explain why next time. See you guys later.